His mother traded the Omega son to a Mafia Alpha, but his reaction shocked everyone. The rain came down in sheets that night, turning Chicago's streets into rivers of neon and shadow. Liam Porter sat in the back of a black sedan, his wrists bound with zip ties that had already carved angry red lines into his skin. He didn't bother looking out the window. There was no point. The city had stopped being home the moment his mother's hand connected with his face 3 days ago, the final beating in a lifetime of them. The driver didn't speak. Neither did the man beside him, a muscle-bound enforcer whose name Liam had never learned and didn't want to know. They were delivering a package. That's all he was now. A debt payment. A transaction. His mother's voice still echoed in his head, syrupy, sweet and venomous all at once. You've finally become useful, Liam. Imagine that. Useful. The word tasted like copper and shame. He'd presented as Omega 3 years ago, at 23. Late, by most standards. His mother had been furious, not because she'd lose a son to the biological realities of his second gender, but because Omegas were valuable. Tradable. She'd looked at him differently after that. Like a commodity instead of a burden. And when her gambling debts had spiraled out of control, when the wrong people came knocking, she'd found the perfect way to make him useful. The sedan pulled up to a building that didn't look like much from the outside. Industrial brick. Forgettable. The kind of place you drive past without a second glance. But Liam had heard the stories. Everyone in Chicago had. This was DeLuca territory, and Marco DeLuca didn't just run an empire, he was the empire. Untouchable. Ruthless. An alpha so powerful his scent alone could make lesser wolves submit from across a room. The kind of man mothers warned their sons about. Except Liam's mother had gift-wrapped him and sent him straight to his door. The zip ties were cut. Rough hands pulled him from the car. Rain soaked through his thin shirt within seconds, plastering dark hair to his face. He stumbled but didn't fall. Falling felt like surrender, and he'd done enough of that already. Inside, the building transformed. Polished floors. Soft lighting. The scent of expensive cologne and leather and something else, something deeper, darker. Alpha musk, old and settled into the walls like it had been there for decades. It made something in Liam's chest tighten. His Omega instincts, the ones he'd spent years trying to suppress, flickered to life with a vengeance. Danger, they screamed. Alpha. Territory. Submit. He forced himself to keep walking. 2 more men flanked him as they walked down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. His heart hammered against his ribs, each beat screaming run run run, but there was nowhere to go. There never had been. They stopped in front of a heavy oak door. One of the men knocked twice, then pushed it open. The office was warm. Unexpectedly so. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the rain-soaked city, lights blinking like dying stars. And behind a massive mahogany desk sat Marco DeLuca. He was younger than Liam had imagined. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, eyes the color of smoke. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, charcoal gray, no tie. His hands were folded on the desk, and he didn't move when Liam was shoved into the room. "Leave us," he said. His voice was quiet. Controlled. The kind of quiet that made you listen. The men hesitated. "Boss, I said leave." They left. The door clicked shut behind them. Liam stood dripping on the expensive rug, arms wrapped around himself, waiting for whatever came next. Pain, probably. Humiliation. Death. If he was lucky. His mother had explained it all with that practiced smile, the one she used on everyone who didn't know better. The insurance policy had been taken out months ago, $1 million. Liam just had to die for it to pay out. And what better way than a violent accident in the criminal underworld? Tragic. Unavoidable. Profitable. Marco DeLuca didn't speak. He studied him instead, gray eyes moving over Liam's face with an intensity that made his skin crawl. Not because it was predatory, though he'd expected that, but because it felt like he was seeing him. Actually seeing him. And Liam hadn't been seen in so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like. "Sit down," Marco said finally. Liam didn't move. Couldn't. His legs had locked up. Marco sighed, rising from his chair with the kind of fluid grace that came from absolute confidence. He was tall, broader than Liam had expected. He crossed the room, and Liam flinched, an automatic response his body had learned years ago. Flinch first. Brace for impact second. But the impact didn't come. Instead, Marco stopped 2 feet away, hands in his pockets, head tilted slightly as he studied the bruises on Liam's face. The split lip. The finger-shaped marks on his throat. The way he held his left arm close to his ribs because breathing hurt. "Who did this to you?" His voice was still quiet, still controlled, but something underneath it had shifted. Gone sharp and cold. Liam opened his mouth. Closed it. Words felt dangerous. The truth felt impossible. "I asked you a question." Not harsh. Just expectant. Like he genuinely wanted an answer. "My mother," Liam whispered. The words hung in the air between them. Fragile and damning. Marco's expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened. He reached up slowly, telegraphing every movement like he was approaching a wounded animal. His fingers caught Liam's chin, gentle, so gentle it made his throat close up, and tilted his face toward the light. Liam stopped breathing. Marco examined him the way a jeweler might examine a stone, cataloging every fracture, every imperfection. The bruises, the cuts, the haunted look in his brown eyes. And then his nostrils flared slightly, and Liam saw the exact moment Marco caught his scent. Underneath the rain and fear and exhaustion, Liam's omega pheromones were bleeding through. Stressed. Pain-sick. Wrong. The kind of scent that should have repelled an alpha, sent him walking in the other direction. But Marco didn't step back. His expression flickered, something complicated and unreadable, and his hand remained steady on Liam's chin. When he finally released him, his hand fell back to his side, and Liam swayed slightly, dizzy from holding his breath. "Sit," Marco said again. This time, his legs obeyed. He sank into the leather chair across from his desk, shaking so hard his teeth chattered. Marco returned to his seat. He didn't sit right away. Instead, he pulled a crystal decanter from a side table, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a glass, and set it in front of Liam. "Drink." "I don't." "It's not a request." Liam picked up the glass with trembling hands. The whiskey burned going down, but it cut through the fog in his head, sharpened the edges of the world just enough that he could think again. Marco watched him, waiting. "Why am I here?" Liam's voice came out raspy, barely above a whisper. "You tell me." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "I was told a delivery would arrive tonight. Payment for a debt your mother owed. What I wasn't told was why she'd send her own son as collateral." Liam barked out a laugh, sharp, bitter, edged with hysteria. "Collateral? Is that what she called it?" Marco's eyes narrowed. "What would you call it?" "An execution." The words spilled out before Liam could stop them. "She took out a life insurance policy. $1 million. All she has to do is wait for you to kill me, and she collects." The silence that followed was absolute. Marco didn't move, didn't blink. But something in the room shifted, temperature dropping by degrees until the air itself felt dangerous. "Say that again," he said softly. So Liam did. He told him everything. The plot. The planned accident. The way his mother had smiled while explaining how easy it would be, how no one would ask questions if Marco DeLuca's organization was involved. He told him about the beatings that had gotten worse over the past month, designed to leave marks, to build a narrative of abuse that would make his death look inevitable. He told him about the years before that. The control. The isolation. The way his mother had shaped him into something small and silent and easy to erase. And when he was done, Marco DeLuca sat perfectly still. His face carved from granite, eyes burning with something that might have been rage, if rage could be that precise. That focused. "She sent you here to die," he said. Not a question. A confirmation. "Yes. And you came anyway." Liam's laugh was hollow. "Where else was I supposed to go? She made sure I had nowhere. No money. No friends. No one who'd believe me over her." He met Marco's eyes, and for the first time in his life, he didn't look away. "So yeah. I came. Because at least this way, it's over." Marco stood abruptly. The movement sharp enough to make Liam flinch again. He noticed, of course he noticed. He crossed to the window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the rain-slicked city. "Do you know what I do?" he asked. "You run the DeLuca family. You control half of Chicago. You kill people who cross you." Liam's voice was flat, reciting facts like a grocery list. "Yes." Marco turned to face him. "I do all of those things. But I don't kill Omegas. And I sure as hell don't kill Omegas who've been beaten half to death and handed over like livestock." Liam blinked. That wasn't what he'd expected. "Then what are you going to do with me?" Marco's smile was thin, dangerous, and entirely without humor. "I'm going to make your mother regret every decision she's ever made. But first, I'm going to ask you a question. And I need you to answer honestly." Liam nodded, throat tight. "Do you want to live, Liam?" The question hit him like a physical blow. No one had ever asked him that before. Not in all 26 years of his existence. He'd been told what to do, where to go, how to act. He'd been molded and controlled and beaten into compliance. But no one had ever asked what he wanted. His voice cracked. "I don't know. That's honest." Marco moved back to his desk, leaned against it, arms crossed. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here tonight. You're going to eat, sleep, and see a doctor. Tomorrow, when you're thinking clearly, I'm going to ask you again. And if the answer is yes, if you want to live, then we're going to figure out how to make that happen together." "Why?" The question burst out of him. "Why would you help me? You don't know me. I'm nobody. You're somebody who walked into a death trap with his eyes open because he didn't see another choice. That takes a kind of courage most people don't have." Marco's expression softened just slightly. "And your mother made a mistake thinking I'd be her weapon. I don't appreciate being used. So consider this a professional courtesy. And a personal insult I intend to repay." Liam's hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was something else, something unfamiliar and terrifying in its own way. Marco pressed a button on his desk. The door opened, and a woman appeared, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, dressed in elegant black. Not an enforcer. Something else. "Elena," Marco said. "Take Liam upstairs. Guest suite. Get him whatever he needs. And call Dr. Ramos. Elena's gaze swept over Liam, assessing without judgment. Of course. Liam stood on unsteady legs. He looked at Marco, at this man who should have been his executioner but was instead offering him, what? Sanctuary? Revenge? A chance? I don't understand you, he said quietly. Marco's smile was faint. You will. Or you won't. Either way, you'll be alive to figure it out. Elena led him through hallways that felt like another world. Soft carpets. Artwork that probably cost more than Liam had ever seen in his life. Silence that felt like safety instead of suffocation. They took an elevator up 3 floors, and when the doors opened, Liam stepped into a space that made his chest tighten. The guest suite was bigger than the apartment he'd shared with his mother. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A king-size bed with impossibly soft-looking sheets. A bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Everything was clean, elegant, untouched. The closet has basics, Elena said, her voice brisk but not unkind. Clothes, toiletries. If you need something specific, use the phone on the nightstand. Press 1. Someone will answer. Liam nodded numbly. Elena moved toward the door, then paused. The doctor will be here in 20 minutes. She's discreet. She won't ask questions you don't want to answer. Thank you, Liam whispered. Elena's expression shifted, something almost maternal flickering across her features. You're safe here. Whatever you think is going to happen, whatever you've been told, none of it is true. Marco De Luca is many things, but he's not a monster. Not to people who don't deserve it. And then she was gone, the door clicking shut softly behind her. Liam stood in the center of the room, dripping rainwater onto expensive hardwood, and felt the dam inside him crack. He made it to the bathroom before the sobs came, ugly, wrenching sounds that tore out of his chest like they'd been trapped there for years. He sank to the floor, arms wrapped around his knees, and cried until there was nothing left. When he finally stopped, the silence felt different. Not empty. Just quiet. He peeled off his wet shirt and caught sight of himself in the mirror, and froze. The bruises were worse than he'd thought. Purple and yellow blotches across his ribs, his arms, his throat. The split lip. The swollen eye. He looked like a battlefield. This is what she did to you. This is what you survived. Liam ran a bath because standing in the shower felt like too much effort. The water was scalding, almost painful, but he sank into it anyway, letting the heat seep into his bones. He stayed there until the water went cold, until his fingers pruned, until he felt almost human again. The doctor arrived exactly when Elena said she would. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and steady hands. She examined Liam with clinical efficiency, asked permission before every touch, and catalogued injuries without commentary. 2 cracked ribs. Severe bruising. Mild dehydration. Nothing that wouldn't heal given time. You're stronger than you look, Dr. Ramos said as she packed up her bag. Most people would have collapsed by now. Liam didn't feel strong. He felt like glass held together by sheer stubbornness. But he nodded anyway. After the doctor left, Elena returned with food, soup, bread, nothing heavy. Liam ate because his body demanded it, not because he tasted anything. When he was done, Elena took the tray and dimmed the lights. Get some sleep, she said. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Liam climbed into the bed, and the sheets were exactly as soft as they'd looked. He should have felt out of place, uncomfortable, like an intruder in someone else's life. But instead, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, safe. He fell asleep with the rain drumming against the windows and the city glittering below. And for the first time in recent memory, he didn't dream about drowning. Morning came with soft light and the smell of coffee. Liam woke disoriented, heart racing, before he remembered where he was. Not in his mother's house. Not in some cheap motel. Here. In Marco De Luca's building. In a room that felt like a sanctuary. He sat up slowly, testing his ribs. Still hurt. Still real. A knock at the door made him tense. "It's Elena," came the voice from the other side. "Come in." Elena entered with a tray, coffee, fruit, pastries, and set it on the bedside table. "Mr. De Luca would like to see you after you've eaten. Whenever you're ready." "What time is it?" "Just after 9. Liam had slept for almost 12 hours. He ate because Elena stood there watching, because saying no felt impossible. The coffee was perfect, the fruit fresh, the pastries melting in his mouth. His body absorbed it all like a drowning person gasping for air. When he was done, Elena showed him the closet. It was stocked with clothes in his size, jeans, soft sweaters, simple button-ups. Nothing flashy. Everything comfortable. "How did you?" "Mr. De Luca is thorough." Elena handed him a pair of jeans and a gray sweater. "Get dressed. I'll wait outside." Liam dressed quickly, caught his reflection in the mirror again. The bruises hadn't faded, but they looked less raw in the morning light. He pulled his hair back, splashed water on his face, and tried to look like someone who knew what he was doing. He failed. But he tried. Elena led him back downstairs, through different hallways this time, to a sunlit room that looked nothing like the office from last night. This was warmer, lived in. Bookshelves lined one wall. A leather couch faced a window overlooking a private garden. And Marco De Luca sat at a small table, reading a newspaper, coffee cup in hand. He looked up when Liam entered. "Sit." Elena disappeared again, silent as a ghost. Liam sat. Marco folded the newspaper and set it aside. He studied Liam the way he had last night, cataloging, assessing. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "Honest." "Accurate." Marco poured him a cup of coffee and slid it across the table. "Dr. Ramos said you'll heal. Ribs will take a few weeks." Liam wrapped his hands around the cup, grateful for the warmth. "Why are you doing this?" "I told you last night." "No. I mean, really. What do you want from me?" His voice was steadier now, sharper. "Nobody does something like this without wanting something back." Marco leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. For a moment, Liam thought he might be offended. But then his mouth quirked in something that might have been a smile. "You're smarter than you pretend to be." "I had to be. Stupid omegas don't survive in my mother's house." "Fair point." Marco picked up his coffee. "Here's the truth, Liam. Your mother tried to use me. She set up a scenario where I'd be blamed for your death, where she'd profit, and where I'd be none the wiser. That pisses me off. So yes, I want something from you. I want your cooperation in making sure she pays for that. But I'm not going to force you. If you want to walk out that door right now, you can. I'll give you money, a clean ID, and a head start. No strings." Liam's throat tightened. "And if I stay? Then we make her regret every decision she's ever made." Marco's voice dropped, went cold. "Together." The word hung between them like a promise. Liam set down his cup. His hands were shaking again, but not from fear. From anger. From something fierce and burning that he'd spent his whole life tamping down. What would that look like? Marco smiled. "It wasn't kind. First, we keep you alive publicly. Make it clear you're under my protection. That alone will send a message. Second, we gather evidence. Everything she's done. Every crime. Every lie. And third. He paused, eyes glittering. We expose her in front of everyone she's ever tried to impress. We take away the thing she values most. Her reputation. Liam breathed. She'll fight back. She always does. She's fighting someone who actually knows how to win. Liam looked at this man, this criminal, this killer, this alpha who should terrify him. But instead, he made Liam feel something dangerously close to powerful. Why do I trust you? Because I haven't lied to you yet. And because deep down, you know I'm the only chance you've got. Marco leaned forward, elbows on the table. So I'm asking you again, Liam. Do you want to live? This time, the answer came easily. Yes. Good. Marco stood, extended his hand across the table. Then let's get started. Liam took his hand. Marco's grip was firm, warm, steady. For the first time in 26 years, he felt like he was shaking hands with an ally instead of an enemy. Maybe even a friend. The rain had stopped. Outside the window, Chicago glittered in the morning sun, sharp and bright and full of possibilities. Liam had spent his entire life being small. Being silent. Being invisible. But standing here, hand clasped in Marco De Luca's, he felt something shift inside his chest. He was done disappearing. And his mother had no idea what was coming. The first lesson came that same afternoon. Marco led him to a different room, smaller, more intimate, with a single wall of windows overlooking the garden. A table sat in the center, covered in file folders, photographs, documents. Liam recognized his mother's handwriting on some of them and felt his stomach turn. Sit, Marco said, pulling out a chair for him. Liam sat, stared at the table. What is all this? Your mother's life. Every transaction. Every lie. Every corner she's cut. Marco took the seat across from him, reached for a folder, and opened it. Inside were bank statements, photocopies of checks, transfer records. She's been skimming from the charity she runs. 10,000 here, 20,000 there. Small enough not to trigger audits. Large enough to fund a very comfortable lifestyle. Liam's hands curled into fists. She always said the charity barely broke even. That we couldn't afford anything extra. She lied. Marco slid another folder across. She also has 3 different bank accounts under shell corporations. Offshore holdings in the Caymans. A condo in Miami she bought with cash. He tapped the papers. Your mother is worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million. And she made you believe you were broke. The room tilted. Liam gripped the edge of the table, trying to breathe through the rage building in his chest. 8 million. While he'd worn the same 3 outfits for years. While he'd eaten ramen because his mother said they couldn't afford groceries. While he'd been told over and over that he was a burden, a drain, a waste of resources. Why? His voice came out strangled. Why would she do that? Control. Marco's tone was matter-of-fact, like he'd seen this pattern 100 times before. Money gives you options. Options give you power. She kept you powerless on purpose. Liam looked up at him, vision blurring with tears he refused to shed. And the insurance policy? Marco pulled out another folder, this one thinner. Inside was a copy of the policy itself, $1 million. Liam's name listed as the insured, his mother as the sole beneficiary. The date was from 4 months ago. She took this out right after you turned 26, Marco said. Old enough that she couldn't claim you as a dependent anymore. Old enough that your death wouldn't raise as many questions. She planned this. It wasn't a question. Liam could see it now, clear as glass. The escalating violence. The isolation. The careful construction of a narrative where his death would seem inevitable. Almost merciful. How long have you known? Since last night. I made some calls after you went to bed. Marco closed the folder. Your mother reached out to an associate of mine 2 weeks ago. Said she had a payment coming. Asked if I'd be willing to accept alternative collateral. I told her to deliver it personally. I wanted to see what she was offering. And she offered me. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. You. But she made a mistake. She assumed I wouldn't ask questions. That I'd take one look at you and see an opportunity. She was wrong. Liam stared at the files spread across the table, at the evidence of his mother's betrayal documented in black and white. Part of him wanted to look away, to pretend he hadn't seen it. But the rest of him, the part that had shaken Marco's hand that morning, wanted to memorize every word. What do we do with this? He asked. We use it. But not yet. Marco gathered the folders, stacked them neatly. First, we need to make sure you're ready. Your mother is going to come looking for you. When she does, you need to be strong enough to face her without breaking. I won't break. The words came out fierce, almost vicious. Marco studied him, head tilted. You say that now. But she's had 26 years to get inside your head. That's not something you just walk away from. Then teach me how. Liam leaned forward, meeting his gaze head-on. You said we'd do this together. So teach me. Something shifted in Marco's expression. Not quite approval, but close. All right. Lesson 1, stop apologizing for taking up space. I don't. You do. You made yourself smaller when Elena came into the room this morning. You flinched when I pulled out your chair. You say thank you for things you don't need to be grateful for. Marco's voice was firm but not unkind. You've been trained to disappear. I need you visible. Liam swallowed hard. I don't know how to be visible. Then we'll start small. Marco stood, gestured for him to do the same. Walk across the room. Don't slouch. Don't drop your eyes. Act like you belong here. It sounded simple. It wasn't. Liam stood, shoulders automatically curving inward, and took a step. Then another. Halfway across the room, he caught himself looking at the floor and forced his chin up. It felt wrong. Exposed. Like he was begging to be noticed. Again, Marco said. Liam walked back, tried to straighten his spine. Failed. Again. And again, and again. For 20 minutes, Marco made him walk back and forth across that room until his ribs ached and his legs trembled. Every time he slouched, Marco corrected him. Every time he dropped his gaze, Marco called him out. It was exhausting and humiliating and strangely liberating all at once. Finally, Marco held up a hand. Better. Not perfect. But better. Liam collapsed into the chair, breathing hard. Does it ever get easier? Eventually. Right now, you're fighting years of conditioning. That takes time. Marco poured him a glass of water from the pitcher on the side table. But you're already doing better than most people would. Most people didn't grow up with my mother. True. Marco handed him the glass. Which is why you're going to survive what comes next. Liam drank, letting the cold water soothe his throat. What does come next? You learn how to fight back. Not with fists, though we'll cover that too, but with words. With presence. With the ability to look someone in the eye and make them believe you're not afraid. Marco sat on the edge of the table, arms crossed. Your mother's weapon is fear. We're going to take that away from her. How? By making you untouchable. The words settled over Liam like a cloak. Untouchable. It sounded impossible. But then again, so did sitting in a crime lord's home planning revenge against the woman who'd given birth to him. When does she find out I'm alive? Liam asked. Soon. I'm having someone deliver a message this afternoon. Marco's smile was sharp. Nothing explicit. Just enough to let her know the delivery didn't go as planned. Liam's pulse quickened. She'll come here. Probably. And when she does, you're going to be ready. Marco pushed off the table. Come on. There's someone I want you to meet. They left the room, walked through more hallways. Liam was starting to map the building in his head, learning its rhythms, and took an elevator down 2 floors. When the doors opened, they stepped into what looked like a private gym. Weights. Punching bags. Mats on the floor. And in the center of it all, a woman in athletic gear running through a series of brutal-looking kicks. She stopped when she saw them, breathing hard. Dark hair pulled back in a tight braid. She was maybe 30, compact and muscular, with the kind of scars that told stories. Liam, this is Risa, Marco said. She's going to teach you how to defend yourself. Risa looked Liam up and down, gaze clinical. You ever been in a fight? Not one I won. Good. Means you don't have bad habits to unlearn. Risa grabbed a towel, wiped sweat from her face. We'll start with basics. How to stand. How to move. How to hit without breaking your hand. Sound good? Liam nodded, throat tight. Great. Get changed. There's gear in the locker room. Risa pointed to a door on the far side of the gym. And leave the fear at the door. It won't help you here. Marco touched Liam's shoulder, brief, grounding. You've got this. Liam wasn't sure he believed him, but he went to the locker room anyway, changed into the workout clothes someone had already stashed there in his size, and came back out feeling like a fraud. Risa was waiting, patient and focused. All right, she said. Show me your stance. Liam had no idea what that meant. He stood there, weight on one hip, arms hanging uselessly at his sides. Risa circled him like a predator. You want to be balanced. Feet shoulder-width apart. Knees slightly bent. Hands up, protecting your face. She demonstrated, and Liam tried to copy her. Better. Now, if someone comes at you, what's your instinct? Run. Wrong. Well, not wrong. Running smart if you can. But if you can't. Risa moved fast, grabbing his wrist. Liam jerked back automatically, stumbled. See? You pull away. That's what they expect. Instead, you move in. Close the distance. Take away their leverage. She demonstrated, moving through the motion slowly. Liam tried to follow, his brain struggling to override 26 years of flinching and retreating. It felt backward. Dangerous. Like every instinct he had was screaming at him to do the opposite. Again, Risa said. They drilled it over and over. Basic movements. Simple blocks. How to break a grip. Liam's ribs protested every twist, every turn, but he gritted his teeth and pushed through. Risa was relentless, but not cruel, correcting without mocking, pushing without breaking. An hour later, Liam was drenched in sweat and shaking with exhaustion. Enough for today, Risa said. You did good. Better than I expected. I feel like I got hit by the truck again. Risa grinned. That means you're learning. Go shower. Eat something. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Liam stumbled back to the locker room, peeled off the sweat-soaked clothes, and stood under a scalding shower until his muscles stopped screaming. When he emerged, Elena was waiting with fresh clothes and a quiet efficiency that he was starting to appreciate. Mr. DeLuca would like you to join him for dinner, Elena said. 7 o'clock. Dining room on the main floor. Liam blinked. Dinner? Yes. Don't overthink it. Elena's smile was faint. He doesn't bite. Usually. Dinner turned out to be less formal than Liam had feared. The dining room was elegant but not ostentatious, warm lighting, a table that could seat 12 but was set for 2 at one end. Marco was already there when he arrived, sleeves rolled up, reading something on his phone. He glanced up. Risa says you're stubborn. That's good. Liam sat, still sore. She also probably said I'm terrible. She said you're raw. There's a difference. Marco poured wine into his glass, then Liam's. Rawness can be shaped. Terrible is just terrible. A woman appeared from the kitchen. Liam hadn't even noticed there was a door, and set plates in front of them. Pasta, simple and perfect, with bread and salad. The kind of meal that felt like comfort instead of performance. Eat, Marco said. You burned a lot of calories today. Liam picked up his fork, realized he was starving, and dug in. The food was incredible. He didn't realize he'd made a sound, some kind of involuntary hum of appreciation, until Marco laughed. Good. I haven't had food like this ever, actually. Get used to it. Rosita's been cooking for me for 10 years. She'll be offended if you don't clean your plate. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Liam kept waiting for the conversation to turn heavy, for Marco to start interrogating him or laying out plans. But he didn't. He just ate, occasionally refilled Liam's wine, and let the quiet settle. Finally, Liam couldn't take it anymore. Why are you being nice to me? Marco set down his fork. You think I'm being nice? Aren't you? I'm being practical. You're no good to me broken. He leaned back in his chair. But if you're asking why I'm not treating you like an asset or a tool, it's because I don't see the point. You're already motivated. You already want what I want. So why make this harder than it needs to be? Most people in your position wouldn't care. I'm not most people. Marco's gaze was steady. And for what it's worth, I don't enjoy hurting people who don't deserve it. Your mother deserves it. You don't. Liam looked down at his plate, throat tight. I don't know how to do this. Any of this. You're doing fine. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Marco picked up his wine glass. But don't let it run the show. You're stronger than you think you are. Everyone keeps saying that. Liam's voice cracked. But I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm one wrong move away from falling apart. Then fall apart. Just do it here, where it's safe. Not out there, where she can see it. The honesty of it hit Liam like a punch. He looked up, met Marco's eyes, and saw something there he hadn't expected. Understanding. Not pity, not condescension, just the quiet recognition of someone who knew what it was like to rebuild yourself from wreckage. Did someone do this for you? He asked quietly. Teach you how to be strong. Marco's expression shuddered for a moment. Liam thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed. My father. Not gently. But effectively. Was he like you? Worse. Marco drained his wine. He believed in control through fear. I learned young that fear only works until someone stops being afraid. Then it falls apart. Is that what we're doing? Making my mother afraid? No. We're making her irrelevant. Marco's smile was cold. Fear would give her power. We're taking hers away completely. Liam absorbed that. It felt right. Righteous, even. His mother had spent decades making him feel small, powerless, erased. Turnabout sounded like justice. They finished dinner. Marco walked him back to the elevator himself, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow's going to be harder. Harder how? You'll see. Liam wanted to press, but exhaustion was pulling at his bones. He nodded, stepped into the elevator, and watched Marco's face disappear as the doors slid shut. Back in his room, he collapsed onto the bed fully clothed and stared at the ceiling. His phone, the old cracked one he'd had before all this, sat on the nightstand. He'd turned it off days ago, too afraid to see what messages might be waiting. But curiosity gnawed at him. Slowly, he reached for it, powered it on. 17 missed calls. All from his mother. 12 texts. Liam opened them with shaking hands. Where are you? Answer your phone. This is unacceptable, Liam. You're making a scene. Call me immediately. The last one was from this morning. I know where you are. This won't end well for you. Liam's stomach clenched. He stared at the screen, reading the words over and over until they blurred. His mother knew. Of course she knew. And she was angry. A knock at the door made him jump. It's Marco. Liam opened the door. Marco stood there, expression grim, holding a tablet. Your mother just posted this. He turned the screen toward Liam. It was a social media post, his mother's public account, the one with 50,000 followers who thought she was a saint. The post showed a photo of Liam from years ago, smiling awkwardly at some charity event. And the caption read, My heart is breaking. My son has been missing for 3 days. If anyone has seen Liam, please contact me immediately. He's vulnerable, and I'm terrified for his safety. Hashtag help find Liam, hashtag missing person. The comments were already pouring in. Hundreds of them. People offering prayers, sharing the post, calling Liam's disappearance tragic. Liam's hands clenched into fists. She's making herself the victim. Yes. And she's good at it. Marco took the tablet back. This is exactly what I expected. She's building a narrative where you're the lost, troubled son and she's the suffering mother. When you turn up alive, she'll claim you were manipulated. Kidnapped. Brainwashed. What do? We let her play her hand. Let her think she's winning. Marco's smile was sharp. And then we show everyone exactly who she really is. When? Soon. But first, we make sure you can handle it. He handed Liam a card, thick paper, embossed lettering. This is for Dr. Levin. Therapist. She works with people who've been through what you've been through. You have an appointment tomorrow at 10. Liam stared at the card. You think I'm crazy? I think you're traumatized. There's a difference. Marco's voice softened. You can't fight her if you're still carrying all the weight she put on you. Dr. Levin will help you put it down. Liam wanted to argue. Wanted to say he was fine, that he didn't need help, that he could handle this on his own. But the truth was, he couldn't. The panic attacks. The flinching. The voice in his head that still sounded like his mother. It was all still there, poisoning everything. Okay, he whispered. Good. Marco turned to leave, then paused. Liam. You're doing better than you think. Don't forget that. He left before Liam could respond. Liam closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a shaky breath. His phone buzzed. Another text from his mother. You can't hide from me. Liam stared at it. Then slowly, deliberately, he typed out a response. Watch me. He hit send before he could second-guess himself, turned off the phone, and threw it in a drawer. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel the need to apologize. The next morning came too fast. Liam woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Elena knocking softly at the door with breakfast and a reminder about the appointment. He ate mechanically. Dressed in jeans and a sweater that actually fit. Tried not to think about what therapy would mean. Dr. Levin's office was in a building 20 minutes away. Quiet. Private. The waiting room was empty. When the door opened, a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes gestured Liam inside. I'm Dr. Levin. You can call me Sarah if you're more comfortable. Liam sat on the couch, hands clasped tight. Marco sent me. I know. He filled me in on the basics. But I'd like to hear it from you, in your own words. What brings you here? And Liam, who'd spent his entire life keeping secrets, who'd learned early that honesty was dangerous, found himself talking. He told Sarah everything. The beatings. The control. The isolation. The insurance policy. The way his mother could make him feel worthless with just a look. Sarah listened without interrupting, taking notes occasionally. Her expression never shifted into pity or horror, just steady attention. When Liam finally ran out of words, Sarah set down her pen. What you've described is systematic abuse. Emotional, physical, financial. Your mother has spent your entire life breaking you down so you'd never have the strength to leave. The fact that you're sitting here right now tells me you're stronger than she ever wanted you to be. Liam's throat closed up. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Sarah leaned forward slightly. Liam, healing isn't going to be quick. It's not going to be easy. But it's possible. And you've already taken the first step. What step? You chose to live. The words hit Liam square in the chest. He hadn't thought of it that way. But Sarah was right. Somewhere between the rain and Marco's office and shaking his hand, he'd made a choice. Not to disappear. Not to let his mother win. They talked for the full hour. Sarah gave him exercises, grounding techniques for when the panic came, ways to separate his mother's voice from his own thoughts, strategies for rebuilding a sense of self that wasn't defined by fear. I want to see you twice a week, Sarah said as the session ended. More if you need it. This is going to get harder before it gets easier, especially when you confront your mother. Marco says it'll be soon. Then we'll prepare you together. Sarah handed him a card. My number. Call any time, day or night. I mean that. Liam took the card, gripped it like a lifeline. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're standing on the other side of this. Back at the building, Liam found Marco in his office, phone pressed to his ear, expression dark. He gestured for Liam to sit. Liam did, listening to his half of the conversation. I don't care what she's offering. The answer is no. Pause. Because I'm not interested in doing business with someone who sells their own son. Another pause. Tell her if she contacts me again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she is. He ended the call, set the phone down hard. My mother? Liam asked. Her lawyer. Apparently, she's willing to negotiate. Wants to know what it'll take to get you back. Marco's laugh was bitter. Like you're a piece of lost luggage. Liam's hands curled into fists. What did you say? That she can go to hell. Marco rubbed his temples. She's escalating. That social media post has gone viral. People are looking for you. She's filed a missing person report with the police. Can they make me go back? You're 26. Legally, no. But she's building a case that you're not mentally competent to make your own decisions. That I've manipulated you, kidnapped you, whatever story makes her look sympathetic. Liam felt the panic rising, clawing at his chest. So what do we do? Marco's gaze locked onto his. We prove she's lying. And we do it in a way she can't refute. How? He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was an invitation, thick cardstock, gold lettering. The annual Chicago Children's Foundation Gala. His mother's charity. The event where she was always the star, the hero, the selfless martyr. This is in 2 weeks, Marco said. Your mother will be there. So will 500 of Chicago's wealthiest, most influential people. Including several journalists. Liam's heart pounded. You want me to go? I want you to show them who you are. Alive. Unbroken. And then we're going to show them who she is. Marco's smile was razor sharp. You said you wanted to fight back. This is how we do it. Liam stared at the invitation. 2 weeks. 14 days to become someone his mother wouldn't recognize. Someone who could stand in a room full of strangers and tell the truth without breaking. It felt impossible. But then again, so had surviving this long. Okay, he said. Let's do it. Marco's expression shifted, pride, maybe. Or something close to it. Then we'd better get you ready. The 2 weeks that followed became a blur of controlled chaos. Liam's days developed a rhythm that felt foreign at first, then gradually necessary. Mornings with Risa in the gym, learning how to move through space like he owned it instead of borrowed it. Afternoons with Sarah, peeling back layers of damage that had calcified over years. Evenings with Marco, drilling him on names and faces and the intricate politics of Chicago's elite social circles. Who's this? Marco held up a photograph of a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. Liam squinted at it. Richard Carmichael. Owns 3 hotels downtown. Sits on the board of your mother's charity. Married to someone 20 years younger. Has a gambling problem he thinks nobody knows about. Good. This one. Another photo, a woman with sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes. Patricia Weston. Real estate developer. Hates my mother but pretends not to. They compete for the same donors. Marco set down the photos, satisfied. You're getting better at this. I feel like I'm studying for a test I never signed up for. You are. Except if you fail this one, your mother wins. Marco poured coffee from the pot Elena had brought earlier and slid a cup across to Liam. These people, they're vultures. They'll smile at your mother while she's useful and tear her apart the second she's not. We just need to give them a reason. Liam wrapped his hands around the warm cup. And you're sure this will work? That they'll actually believe me over her? They won't have a choice. Not when they see the evidence. Marco opened his laptop, turned it toward Liam. The screen showed financial records, emails, documents Liam had never seen before. My people have been digging. Your mother's been running this charity like her personal piggy bank for 7 years. Ghost employees. Inflated expenses. Donations that disappear into shell companies. It's all here. Liam scrolled through the files, stomach twisting. How did she get away with this for so long? Because people wanted to believe in her. She's charming. Charismatic. She tells a good story about helping children while looking perfect in a gown. Marco's voice went hard. But charm only works until someone shows you the receipts. And you're going to show them at the gala. We are. Together. Marco closed the laptop. But only if you're ready. If you can stand in that room and not fall apart when she looks at you. Liam met his eyes. I won't fall apart. You say that now. But she knows how to get to you. She's had 26 years of practice. Then I'll have to be better than her practice. Liam set down his cup, jaw tight. I'm not the same person she handed over 2 weeks ago. You made sure of that. Something flickered across Marco's face, pride, maybe. Or concern. Just remember, this isn't about revenge. It's about justice. There's a difference. Is there? Liam heard the bitterness in his own voice. Because from where I'm sitting, they look pretty similar. Marco leaned back in his chair, studying him. Revenge is personal. It's satisfying, but it burns out fast. Justice is permanent. It rebuilds what was broken. He paused. Your mother took everything from you. We're not just taking it back. We're making sure she can never do it to anyone else. Liam absorbed that. Marco was right, as usual. This was bigger than his pain, bigger than the scars his mother had left. There were other victims out there. People who'd trusted the charity. Donors who'd been lied to. Maybe even other omegas like him, who'd been used and discarded. Okay, he said quietly. Justice, then. The days bled together. Liam's ribs healed enough that he could move without wincing. His sessions with Risa became less about survival and more about confidence, each punch and block building something solid in his chest where fear used to live. Sarah taught him how to recognize when his mother's voice was speaking through his own thoughts. How to silence it. How to build new patterns that didn't revolve around making himself small. And through it all, Marco was there. Not hovering. Not controlling. Just present. He'd appear in the gym sometimes to watch Liam train, offer quiet corrections when his stance faltered. He'd sit across from him at dinner and let him vent about the frustration of unlearning 26 years of conditioning. He never asked Liam to be grateful. Never demanded anything in return. It made Liam trust him in a way he hadn't trusted anyone before. 5 days before the gala, Elena appeared in Liam's room with 3 garment bags. Mr. DeLuca had these made for you, Elena said, hanging them in the closet. For the event. Liam unzipped the first bag and felt his breath catch. The suit inside was midnight blue, elegant and understated. Nothing like the flashy clothes his mother used to force him into for charity events. This was sophisticated. Powerful. The kind of suit that made a statement without screaming. It's beautiful, Liam whispered. Try it on. Make sure it fits. Liam slipped into the suit, and it fit like it had been painted onto his body. Not tight, just perfect. He caught his reflection in the mirror and barely recognized himself. The bruises had faded to yellow shadows. His hair had been trimmed by a stylist Elena had brought in, shaped into something intentional instead of neglected. He looked like someone who mattered. He has good taste, Elena said, adjusting the shoulder seam slightly. Always has. Liam turned, studying himself from different angles. Why is he doing all this? Really? Elena's expression softened. You'd have to ask him. But if I had to guess, you reminded him of someone. Or maybe of himself, once. She smoothed an invisible wrinkle. Mr. DeLuca doesn't help people often. But when he does, he commits completely. You're lucky. I don't feel lucky. You're alive, aren't you? And you're about to destroy the woman who tried to kill you. Elena's smile was faint. That's not luck. That's survival. After Elena left, Liam stood in front of the mirror for a long time. The man staring back at him looked capable. Strong. Nothing like the broken Omega who'd been dragged through the rain 2 weeks ago. But underneath the suit and the styled hair, Liam could still feel the fear coiled tight in his stomach. What if he froze when he saw his mother? What if all this preparation crumbled the second they were in the same room? A knock interrupted his spiral. "It's me," Marco called. Liam opened the door. Marco stood there in his usual expensive suit, but something about his expression was different. Softer. Elena said, "The suit fits." "It does." "Thank you." Marco waved that off. "I need you to come with me. There's something you should see." He led Liam down to a floor he'd never been to before, past a security door that required both a key card and a fingerprint. Beyond it was a room that looked like something out of a spy movie, screens on every wall, computers humming, 2 people working at stations who glanced up when they entered. "This is where we've been building the case," Marco said. "Everything we're going to show at the gala. I want you to see it first. Make sure you're ready." One of the tech guys, lanky, early 20s, with headphones around his neck, pulled up a file on the main screen. It was a video compilation. The footage started with news clips of Liam's mother at various charity events, smiling for cameras, accepting awards, giving speeches about helping vulnerable children. Then it shifted. Bank records appeared, highlighted to show the discrepancies. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Emails where she discussed moving money, hiding expenses, paying people off. Then came the photos. Liam as a child, skinny and bruised. School photos where you could see the damage if you looked close enough. Medical records that had been sealed but somehow Marco's people had accessed. Each one documented years of abuse that had been carefully hidden, explained away, ignored by everyone who should have protected him. The final section was the insurance policy itself, blown up on screen with annotations explaining exactly what it meant. The payout. The beneficiary. The timing. When it ended, the room was silent except for the hum of electronics. Liam's hands were shaking. "You got all of this?" "Most of it was already out there, just buried." "We connected the dots." Marco nodded to the tech guy. "This will play on every screen in the ballroom. For minutes. Long enough to make the point. Short enough that nobody can look away. She'll deny everything. Of course she will. But denial doesn't work when the evidence is that clear." Marco's voice was steady. "The media will pick it up. The police will have to investigate. Her donors will disappear. Everything she's built will collapse." Liam stared at the blank screen. This was it. This was the weapon they'd been building. And it was devastating. "I want to add something," he said suddenly. Marco raised an eyebrow. "What?" "A statement. For me. At the end." Liam turned to face him. "I want to look into the camera and tell them exactly what she did. In my own words." "Liam, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "You said this is about justice. Justice means the victims get to speak. I need to speak." Marco studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay. We'll film it tomorrow. But we do it right. You get one take, no do-overs. So you'd better be ready." "I will be." That night, Liam sat at the desk in his room and wrote out what he wanted to say. He revised it a dozen times, crossing out anything that sounded too angry, too broken, too much like the Omega his mother had tried to create. What remained was simple. Honest. Devastating in its clarity. The next morning, they filmed it in Marco's office. Just Liam, sitting in a chair facing the camera. No makeup to hide the fading bruises. No script to read from. Just Liam speaking directly to the lens, like he was talking to every person who'd ever believed his mother's lies. "My name is Liam Porter," he began, voice steady. "And the woman you know as Catherine Porter, philanthropist, charity director, advocate for children, is the same woman who beat me, controlled me, and sold me to a stranger because she thought I was worth more dead than alive. Everything you've seen tonight is true. Every document. Every record. Every photo. This is who she really is. And I'm done being silent about it." When it was over, the room was quiet. The camera guy mumbled something about it being powerful and slipped out. Marco stood with his arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Too much?" Liam asked. "No. It's perfect." Marco's voice was rough. "She won't recover from this." "Good." Liam stood, legs unsteady. "Because I don't want her to." 3 days before the gala, Liam's mother made her move. It happened in the afternoon. Liam was in the gym with Risa, working through combinations, when Elena appeared in the doorway looking tense. "Liam. You need to come upstairs now." Something in her tone made Liam's stomach drop. He followed her to Marco's office, where Marco stood at the window with his phone pressed to his ear, shoulders tight with tension. "I don't care what kind of warrant you think you have. You're not coming in here without." He stopped, listened. "Then I'll have my lawyer meet you at the precinct." He ended the call, turned to face Liam. "Your mother went to the police. Told them I kidnapped you. They want to do a welfare check." Liam's blood went cold. "Can they do that?" "Technically, yes. But I'm not letting them in without a fight. You're an adult. You came here willingly. They have no cause." Marco's jaw tightened. "But this is her play. She's trying to force your hand. Make you choose between going back to her or making this a legal battle." "I'm not going back." The words came out fierce. "I don't care what they say. I'm not going back to her. Then we handle this now. You're going to talk to the police. Tell them the truth, that you're here by choice, that you're safe, that she's the one who hurt you." Marco moved closer. "Can you do that without breaking?" Liam thought about the past 2 weeks. The training. The therapy. The slow, painful process of building himself into someone who could survive this. "Yes." "Good. Because she's counting on you falling apart. We're going to prove her wrong." An hour later, 2 police officers showed up. Marco met them in a conference room with his lawyer present, and Liam sat across from them with his hands folded on the table, determined not to let them see his fear. The older officer, a woman with gray hair and tired eyes, studied him carefully. "Mr. Porter, we received a report that you're being held here against your will. Is that true?" "No." Liam's voice didn't waver. "I'm here because I choose to be. Your mother seems to think otherwise. She's very concerned about you." Liam almost laughed. "My mother is concerned about her reputation. Not me." The younger officer leaned forward. "She showed us posts you made on social media. Said you've been out of contact for weeks. That's not normal behavior for someone who's safe. What's not normal is a mother who beats her son and then files a missing person report to cover it up." Liam pushed up his sleeves, revealing the fading bruises. She did this. And she did a lot worse over the years. You want to know why I'm here? Because Marco De Luca offered me safety when the woman who gave birth to me tried to have me killed. The officers exchanged glances. The woman pulled out a notepad. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. And I have proof. Medical records. Witness statements. Financial documents showing the insurance policy she took out on my life. Liam met the woman's eyes. Check my history. Talk to the doctors who treated me as a kid. You'll see the pattern. The interview lasted another 20 minutes. By the end, both officers looked uncomfortable, and the older woman handed Liam a card. If you need anything, call this number. Victim Services. They can help. I'm getting help here. Liam glanced at Marco. I'm exactly where I need to be. After they left, Marco's lawyer nodded approvingly. You handled that well. They won't be back. But Liam knew better. His mother wouldn't stop with the police. She'd try something else. Something worse. He was right. The next morning, Liam woke to his phone buzzing. He'd gotten a new one, unlisted number, only a handful of people had it. The text was from an unknown sender. You think you're safe? You think he can protect you? You're still my son. You'll always be mine. Liam's hands went cold. He showed it to Marco immediately. Marco's expression went dark. She's escalating. Trying to scare you before the gala. It's working. Liam hated how small his voice sounded. Marco took the phone, forwarded the message to someone, then handed it back. Fear is her last card. Don't give her the satisfaction of playing it. He gripped Liam's shoulder briefly. One more day. That's all you need to survive. One more day, and this is over. Liam nodded. But the text haunted him. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept imagining his mother's face, the way she'd look when the video played, when the room turned against her. Would she crumble? Would she fight? Or would she find some way to twist it, to make herself the victim again? The morning of the gala, Liam woke before dawn. He went through his routine mechanically, shower, coffee, breathing exercises Sarah had taught him. Risa showed up to run him through one final session, more about centering than fighting. You've got this, Risa said as they finished. Just remember everything we worked on. Stand tall. Don't apologize. Own the space. And if I freeze? You won't. But if you do, you know how to breathe through it. You know how to come back. Risa gripped his shoulder. You're tougher than you think, Liam. Go show them. Elena came to help him get ready in the afternoon. The suit, the shoes, the understated jewelry Marco had chosen. His hair was styled back, and the fading bruises on his face were barely visible in the soft light. He looked polished. Professional. Nothing like the broken Omega from 2 weeks ago. When Liam looked in the mirror this time, he saw someone he almost didn't recognize. Confident. Dangerous. Ready. Marco was waiting in the hallway when he emerged. He wore a black tuxedo that probably cost more than a car, looking every inch the crime lord he was. But when he saw Liam, something in his expression shifted. You look. Marco stopped, started again. You're going to walk in there, and everyone's going to know exactly who you are. That's the plan, right? Yeah. But I don't think you realize how powerful you look right now. He offered his arm. Ready? Liam took it, felt the solid warmth of him beside him. As I'll ever be. The gala was held at the Grand Marquis Hotel, one of the most expensive venues in Chicago. They arrived fashionably late, after most of the guests were already inside. The lobby was full of people in designer clothes, air thick with expensive perfume and the murmur of elite conversation. Liam felt every eye turn toward them as they entered. Marco kept his hand at the small of his back, a steady pressure that said, "I'm here." They moved through the crowd, and Liam recognized faces from the photos he'd studied. Richard Carmichael near the bar. Patricia Weston holding court by the windows. And there, at the center of it all, surrounded by admirers and journalists, was Catherine Porter. Liam's mother looked exactly as she always did. Elegant in a cream-colored gown, diamonds at her throat, smile perfect and practiced. She was mid-conversation with a reporter when her gaze landed on Liam. The smile froze. For just a second, shock flashed across Catherine's face. Then it was gone, replaced by something harder. Their eyes met across the room. Catherine excused herself from the reporter and began making her way toward them. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to make himself invisible. But he forced himself to stand still. To breathe. To remember who he'd become in the past 2 weeks. Liam. His mother's voice was sugary sweet, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "Thank goodness. I've been so worried about you." She reached out like she was going to embrace him. Liam stepped back, just out of reach. "Don't touch me." Catherine's eyes went cold, but her smile never wavered. "Darling, I know you've been through a difficult time. But we should talk privately. This isn't the place." "No." Liam's voice was steady. "We're not going anywhere. And we're not talking privately. Anything you have to say to me, you can say right here." The hush was spreading through the nearby crowd. People were starting to notice the confrontation. Phones coming out. Cameras turning their way. Catherine's smile tightened. "Liam, you're clearly not well. This man has manipulated you. Marco saved my life. You tried to end it." Liam felt Marco's hand press gently against his back, grounding him. "I know about the insurance policy. I know you sent me to him expecting him to kill me. I know everything." Catherine's mask slipped for just a moment, fury flashing in her eyes. Then she laughed, the sound light and practiced. "That's absurd. You've clearly been fed lies. The only person who's been lying here is you. The only person who's been lying here is you." Liam's voice carried now, stronger with every word. "And in about 30 seconds, everyone in this room is going to know exactly what kind of person you really are." Catherine opened her mouth to respond. But the lights dimmed. The screens positioned around the ballroom flickered to life. And the video began to play. Liam watched his mother's face as the evidence unspooled across every screen. Watched the color drain from her cheeks. Watched her eyes go wide with panic as the bank records appeared, as the photos of his childhood injuries filled the room, as the insurance policy was displayed for everyone to see. The ballroom had gone completely silent. When Liam's recorded statement began, his face filling the screens, his voice calm and clear, Catherine finally moved. She turned toward the nearest screen, then the next, looking for an escape that didn't exist. "Turn it off," she hissed at someone. "Turn it off now." But nobody moved. Everyone was watching. The journalists. The donors. The board members. All the people who'd believed in her, celebrated her, given her power. The video ended. The screens went dark. In the silence that followed, Catherine Porter stood alone in the center of the ballroom. Her perfect facade finally shattered. And Liam, for the first time in his entire life, wasn't afraid anymore. The silence stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Then someone dropped a glass. The sound of crystal shattering on marble echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot, and suddenly everyone was moving at once. Catherine lurched forward, reaching for the nearest journalist. "This is fabricated. All of it. That man," she pointed a shaking finger at Marco. "He's a criminal. He coerced him. I have copies of everything," Marco said calmly, his voice cutting through her panic. "Financial records authenticated by 3 separate forensic accountants. Medical records subpoenaed from 4 different hospitals. The insurance policy filed with your signature, dated and notarized." He pulled a flash drive from his pocket, held it up. "Any journalist who wants the complete file can have it. Free of charge." A dozen hands shot up immediately. Catherine's face went from pale to crimson. "You can't do this. I'll sue you for defamation, for slander, for telling the truth." Liam's voice was quiet, but it carried. He stepped forward, away from Marco's protective presence, standing on his own. "You can try. But we both know what discovery will reveal." Catherine's eyes locked onto his. For a moment, Liam saw something there that almost looked like desperation. "Liam, please. You don't understand what you're doing. I'm your mother. I love you. Everything I did was..." "Don't." The word came out hard. "Don't you dare say you did it for me. You did it for yourself. You've always done everything for yourself." Catherine's expression twisted into something ugly. The mask was gone completely now, stripped away by panic and rage. "You ungrateful little," she caught herself, but it was too late. The venom was already out. "After everything I gave you. You gave me nothing but scars." Liam's voice didn't shake. "Not anymore. And I'm done carrying them for you." A flash went off. Then another. The journalists were documenting everything, phones and cameras capturing Catherine's meltdown in real time. Liam could see it happening. The story shifting. The narrative crumbling. Every word his mother spoke was another nail in her own coffin. Richard Carmichael pushed through the crowd, face red with fury. "Catherine, is this true? Have you been stealing from the foundation?" "Richard, I can explain." "Can you explain $2 million in offshore accounts?" Patricia Weston appeared beside him, holding her phone up. "Because I'm looking at the transfers right now. My accountant just sent me the breakdown." Her smile was sharp. "Interesting how much of our donated money ended up in the Cayman Islands." Catherine's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. She looked around the room, searching for allies, for anyone who might defend her. But the faces staring back were all the same. Shock. Disgust. Betrayal. The people who'd celebrated her an hour ago were already stepping away, distancing themselves from the wreckage. "This isn't over," Catherine hissed, turning back to Liam. "You think you've won? You think destroying me makes you strong? You're nothing. You've always been nothing. And when he gets bored of you," she gestured wildly at Marco. "When he throws you away like the trash you are, you'll have nowhere to go. No one will want you." The words hit exactly where they were meant to, finding all the old wounds, the places that still ached. Liam felt the familiar panic starting to rise, the voice in his head that said maybe his mother was right. Maybe he really was worthless. Then Marco's hand found his. Warm. Steady. Real. And just like that, the panic stopped. Liam looked at his mother. Really looked at her. And saw not the towering figure of his childhood, but a small, vicious woman whose power had always come from making other people feel smaller. Without that power, without the fears she'd cultivated so carefully, Catherine Porter was just pathetic. "You're right about one thing," Liam said quietly. "I was nothing. You made sure of that. But I'm not anymore. And you," he let his gaze sweep over the ruined woman in front of him. "You're exactly what you've always been. Just now, everyone else can see it too." Catherine opened her mouth, but whatever she'd been about to say was cut off by a new voice from the edge of the crowd. "Catherine Porter." Two men in suits pushed through, badges visible on their belts. "Detectives." Liam recognized the older one from the photos Marco had shown him, someone who owed him a favor, who'd agreed to be on standby tonight. "We have some questions about financial irregularities at the Children's Foundation. You'll need to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere." Catherine's voice rose to a shriek. "This is harassment. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent," the detective said calmly. "I'd suggest using it. They weren't arresting her. Not yet. Just bringing her in for questioning." But the crowd didn't know that. All they saw was Catherine Porter being escorted out of her own gala by police, her perfect facade shattered beyond repair. Liam watched his mother disappear through the ballroom doors and felt something release in his chest. Not relief exactly, more like the absence of a weight he'd been carrying so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand without it. Marco's hand was still in his. Liam looked up at him and found Marco watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You okay?" Marco asked quietly. "I don't know yet." Liam's voice was rough. "Honest. Ask me tomorrow." The ballroom erupted into chaos around them. Journalists shouting questions. Board members arguing in tight clusters. Guests streaming toward the exits. Someone killed the music, the gala had officially imploded. Patricia Weston materialized in front of them, eyes bright with calculation. "Mr. DeLuca. Mr. Porter. That was quite a performance." "It wasn't a performance," Liam said. "It was the truth. Even better." Patricia's smile was all teeth. "The Foundation's board will need new leadership. Someone with actual integrity this time. I'm putting your name forward, Liam. If you're interested." Liam blinked. "I don't know anything about running a charity. You know what it's like to need help and not get it. That's more qualification than most of these vultures." Patricia glanced around the room with obvious distaste. "Think about it. We'll talk next week." She swept away before Liam could respond. Marco steered him toward a side exit, away from the press of bodies and cameras. They slipped into a quiet corridor, and Liam finally let himself breathe. His hands were shaking. His legs felt like water. The adrenaline that had carried him through the confrontation was draining away, leaving him hollow. "I need to sit down," he managed. Marco found a bench, helped him onto it. Liam put his head between his knees, trying to remember Sarah's breathing exercises. 4 counts in. Hold. 4 counts out. "You did good," Marco said, sitting beside him. "Better than good. I feel like I'm going to throw up." "That's normal. You just went to war with the person who's haunted you your entire life. Your body's processing that." Liam laughed, the sound shaky. "Is that your professional opinion? I've been in a few wars. You get used to the aftermath." Marco's voice was gentle. "Just breathe. Let it happen." Liam sat there for a long time, Marco a solid presence beside him while the chaos continued in the ballroom beyond. Eventually, his hands stopped shaking. His breathing evened out. The world stopped spinning quite so fast. "What happens now?" he asked. "The police will investigate. The Foundation's board will launch their own audit. The media will tear into her for weeks. Marco's tone was matter-of-fact. Your mother's life as she knew it is over. Everything she built is going to collapse. And me? That's up to you. Marco turned to look at him. You're free, Liam. Actually free. You can do whatever you want now. The concept felt foreign. Freedom. Choice. A future that wasn't dictated by someone else's cruelty. Liam had spent so long surviving that he'd never learned how to actually live. I don't know what I want, he admitted. Then figure it out. You've got time. Marco stood, offered his hand. But right now, we should get out of here before the press finds us. They left through a service entrance, avoiding the cluster of reporters and cameras that had gathered at the front. Marco's car was waiting, engine running. They slid into the back seat, and the driver pulled away from the hotel, leaving the wreckage behind. Liam watched the city pass by the window. Chicago at night, all lights and shadows and possibility. He'd lived here his entire life, but it had never felt like home, just a cage he couldn't escape. Now, sitting in the back of Marco DeLuca's car with his mother's empire crumbling behind him, he wondered what it might feel like to actually belong somewhere. Thank you, he said quietly. For all of this. For. He gestured vaguely. Everything. Marco's expression was unreadable. Don't thank me yet. The hard part's just starting. What do you mean? Your mother's going to fight back. She's got lawyers, connections, money she's hidden away. This isn't over just because she had a bad night. He met Liam's eyes. Are you ready for that? For the long game? Liam thought about it. Really thought about it. His mother was vicious when cornered, that much was true. She'd lie, manipulate, play victim. She'd try every trick she'd ever learned to claw her way back to respectability. It would be ugly. Prolonged. Exhausting. But Liam wasn't the same person who'd walked into Marco's office 2 weeks ago. He'd learned how to stand up straight. How to throw a punch. How to look someone in the eye and refuse to flinch. He'd learned that he was stronger than anyone, including himself, had ever given him credit for. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. The car pulled up to Marco's building. They rode the elevator in silence, and when the doors opened on his floor, Marco walked him to his room. Get some rest, Marco said. Tomorrow's going to be insane. Press requests. Legal calls. Probably a few dozen people trying to get a piece of you now that you're the story. Liam's stomach twisted. I don't want to be the story. Too late. You already are. But Marco's tone was kind. Elena will handle the phone. You just focus on yourself. Talk to Sarah. Process what happened tonight. Don't let anyone rush you into decisions. What about you? What are you going to do? Marco's smile was faint. Make sure your mother's lawyers can't find any loopholes. Make sure the evidence is airtight. Make sure she actually pays for what she did. He paused. And make sure you stay safe. She's dangerous when she's desperate. You think she'd try something? I think she's lost everything that mattered to her. People in that position make stupid choices. His expression hardened. But she won't get near you. I'll make sure of that. Liam wanted to argue, to say he didn't need protection, that he could handle himself. But the truth was, he felt safer knowing Marco was watching his back. He'd learned to trust him in a way he'd never trusted anyone. Okay, he said. I'll be careful. Good. Marco turned to leave, then stopped. Liam. What you did tonight, standing up to her like that. Most people couldn't have done it. You should be proud. He left before Liam could respond. Liam went into his room, closed the door, and leaned against it. He should feel triumphant. Victorious. But all he felt was tired, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that made even changing out of the suit feel like too much effort. He managed it eventually, trading the elegant clothes for soft pajamas, washing his face and brushing his hair back. In the mirror, he looked like himself again. Just Liam. Not the polished version from the gala. Not the broken Omega from 2 weeks ago. Something in between. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Saw the news. Call me if you need to talk. Anytime. Liam smiled despite everything. He didn't call, talking felt impossible right now, but he sent back a simple thank you and felt better for it. Sleep should have been impossible, but the moment Liam's head hit the pillow, he was out. Dreamless, heavy sleep that lasted until late morning, when Elena knocked with coffee and the warning that his phone was already ringing off the hook. Reporters, Elena said, setting down the tray. Lawyers. People claiming to be your relatives. I've been screening them all. Any I actually need to talk to? Not unless you want to. Mr. DeLuca says to take the day. Rest. The world can wait. But the world, as it turned out, had other plans. Liam was halfway through his coffee when Marco appeared, expression grim. We have a problem. Liam's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Your mother posted bail an hour ago. And she's calling a press conference for this afternoon. Marco handed him his phone. The screen showed a news alert. Catherine Porter was planning to make a statement claiming she'd been framed, that her son had been manipulated by organized crime, that the whole thing was a conspiracy. Liam's hands went cold. She's going to lie. She's going to make herself the victim. Of course she is. It's the only play she has left. Marco took his phone back. Question is, do we respond? Or do we let her dig her own grave? What do you think we should do? I think she's counting on you staying silent. On you hiding. She's going to paint you as unstable, controlled, not credible. His eyes were sharp. So I think you should show up. Be visible. Remind everyone who the real victim is here. Liam's pulse kicked up. The thought of facing cameras, reporters, his mother's accusations, it made him want to crawl under the bed and never come out. But he'd come this far. Backing down now would undo everything. Where's the press conference? The Regency Hotel. Noon. Marco checked his watch. We've got 2 hours. Then we'd better get ready. This time, Liam chose his own outfit. Simple black pants, a white button-up, his hair pulled back. Nothing flashy. He looked professional. Composed. Like someone who had nothing to hide. Elena appeared with a stylist who used light concealer to cover the last traces of bruising. By the time Liam looked in the mirror again, he barely recognized the confident man staring back. Marco met him downstairs with Risa and 2 other security people Liam had seen around but never spoken to. You don't have to speak, Marco said as they headed to the cars. Just be there. Let them see you. That's enough. But Liam knew it wasn't enough. Not really. His mother was about to stand in front of cameras and lie through her teeth. Someone needed to counter that narrative. And who better than the son she tried to erase? The agency was swarmed with media when they arrived. Cameras, microphones, reporters shouting questions. Marco's security cleared a path, and they made it inside without Liam having to answer anything. The press conference was being held in a ballroom, smaller than the one from last night but still packed with journalists. Catherine was already there, sitting at a table on a raised platform, flanked by two expensive-looking lawyers. She'd clearly hired a stylist too. She looked softer than usual, more maternal, with barely any makeup and her hair styled simply. The grieving mother. The wronged woman. It was a performance. And she was playing it perfectly. When Catherine saw Liam enter, her expression flickered, just for a second. Then the mask was back. Liam and Marco took seats in the back, refusing to be invisible. Several cameras swung their way. Liam kept his face neutral, hands folded in his lap, and watched his mother prepare to lie. Catherine's lead attorney stood first, reading from a prepared statement. The usual legal language, denying all allegations, claiming the evidence was fabricated, promising lawsuits against Marco De Luca for defamation and harassment. Then Catherine herself took the microphone. "I want to start by saying how much I love my son," she began, voice trembling just enough to sound genuine. "Liam has struggled with mental health issues for years. I've done everything I could to help him, to protect him, to give him the care he needed. But recently, he fell under the influence of someone who saw his vulnerability as an opportunity." Liam's jaw clenched. He felt Marco's hand find his under the table, a silent reminder to stay calm. "The man sitting in this room right now, Marco De Luca, is a known criminal," Catherine continued. "He runs one of the most dangerous organizations in Chicago. And for reasons I don't fully understand, he targeted my son. He manipulated him, convinced him that I was the enemy. And now he's using him as a weapon against me." A reporter raised a hand. "Mrs. Porter, what about the financial records? The evidence of embezzlement?" "Fabricated," one of the lawyers interjected smoothly. "We have our own forensic accountants reviewing the foundation's books. We're confident we'll prove these accusations are baseless." "And the insurance policy," another reporter called out. Catherine's eyes went hard for just a moment before softening again. "A standard policy taken out for estate planning purposes. Nothing sinister. The fact that it's being twisted into something malicious just shows how far these people will go to destroy me." Liam couldn't take it anymore. He stood. The movement drew every camera in the room. Catherine's face went pale. "Liam, sweetheart, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Liam's voice carried across the ballroom. "Because everything you just said is a lie." The room erupted. Journalists shouting questions. Cameras flashing. Catherine's lawyers tried to regain control, but it was too late. Liam had the floor now. "I don't have mental health issues," Liam said clearly. "What I have is PTSD from 26 years of abuse at the hands of the woman sitting on that stage. What I have is documentation of every broken bone, every bruise, every time she put me in the hospital and convinced the doctors it was an accident." "Liam, please," Catherine stood, reaching out like she was trying to comfort a hysterical child. "Don't touch me. Don't pretend you care." Liam's hands were shaking, but his voice stayed steady. "You sent me to Marco De Luca expecting him to kill me so you could collect $1 million. That's not love. That's not protection. That's attempted murder." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Mr. Porter, you're clearly upset. Perhaps we should take a break." "I'm not upset. I'm done being silent." Liam turned to address the room full of reporters. "My mother is a criminal. She's stolen from the charity she runs. She's abused her son for decades. And now she's standing up here playing victim because she got caught. Don't let her fool you. She's very good at performing. But that's all it is. A performance." Catherine's mask cracked completely. "You ungrateful," she caught herself, forced the syrupy tone back. "Liam, I know you're confused. That man has poisoned your mind against me. But I'm still your mother. I'll always love you, no matter what he's made you believe. Marco didn't make me believe anything. You did. Every time you hit me. Every time you told me I was worthless. Every time you made me feel like I deserved the pain. Liam's voice broke on the last word, but he pushed through. The only thing Marco did was give me a place to heal. And teach me that I didn't have to live in fear anymore. He turned and walked out of the ballroom. Marco and his security team fell into step around him. Behind them, the press conference dissolved into chaos. Reporters shouting questions. Catherine's lawyers trying to restore order. Cameras capturing every second of the meltdown. Outside, Liam made it to the car before his legs gave out. He collapsed into the seat, gasping for air. The adrenaline crash hit him like a freight train. Marco slid in beside him. Breathe. You're okay. Just breathe. I couldn't, she was lying, and I know. You did the right thing. Marco's voice was calm, grounding. You told the truth. That's all you needed to do. Liam focused on breathing. In. Out. In. Out. Slowly, the panic receded. When he could think clearly again, he looked at Marco. What happens now? Now we let the truth do its work. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Within hours, every news outlet in Chicago was running the story. Video of Liam's confrontation with his mother went viral. The foundation's board called an emergency meeting and suspended Catherine indefinitely. 3 major donors publicly withdrew their support. The police announced they were opening a formal investigation into the embezzlement charges. And through it all, Liam stayed in Marco's building, watching the empire his mother had built collapse in real time. Sarah came by that evening for an emergency session. They talked for 2 hours about processing trauma, about confronting abusers, about the strange emptiness that came after finally getting justice. It helped. Not completely, but enough that Liam could sleep that night without nightmares. The next morning, Elena brought news that Catherine's lawyers had reached out. They wanted to talk settlement. What kind of settlement? Liam asked. Marco, sitting across from him at breakfast, looked disgusted. The kind where she admits no wrongdoing but agrees to stay away from you permanently. In exchange, you don't pursue criminal charges. Liam's coffee went cold in his hands. She wants me to let her walk. She wants to avoid prison. Yes. Marco's tone made it clear what he thought of that idea. What do you think I should do? I think that's your call. Not mine. Marco leaned back. If you want her in prison, we can make that happen. The evidence is solid. But it'll mean a trial, months, maybe years of legal battles. You'll have to testify. Relive everything. Face her in court. Liam thought about that. Thought about sitting in a courtroom while his mother's lawyers tried to tear him apart. Thought about the media circus, the scrutiny, the endless questions. He'd just gotten free. Did he really want to spend the next year of his life chained to this fight? What happens if I take the settlement? She goes away. Legally barred from contacting you. The foundation fires her. She loses her reputation, her career, most of her money. She doesn't go to prison. But her life as she knew it is over. Liam stared into his coffee. Prison felt like justice. But so did knowing his mother would spend the rest of her life watching everything she'd built turn to ash. Maybe that was punishment enough. Maybe he didn't need to destroy himself in the process of destroying her. I'll take the settlement, he said quietly. But I want one more thing. Name it. I want her to admit what she did in writing. A full confession, abuse, embezzlement, the insurance policy. All of it. And if she ever tries to hurt anyone else, that confession goes public. Marco's smile was sharp. I'll have my lawyers draft it. The settlement was finalized within a week. Catherine Porter signed a 20-page document detailing every crime she'd committed, every lie she'd told, every time she'd raised a hand to her son. She gave up control of the foundation. She agreed to a permanent restraining order. She surrendered nearly all of her liquid assets to pay back what she'd stolen. And in return, Liam agreed not to press charges. It felt anticlimactic after everything. After all the fear and pain and rage, it came down to signatures on paper. But when Liam saw his mother's name scrawled at the bottom of that confession, he felt something release in his chest. It was over. Really, truly over. Catherine Porter's life imploded in the weeks that followed, exactly as Marco had predicted. The scandal consumed her. Former friends refused her calls. The charity world blacklisted her. She tried once to release a statement claiming coercion, but Liam's lawyers shut it down immediately, threatening to release the confession. After that, Catherine went silent. Disappeared from public life entirely. Liam heard through Marco's network that his mother had left Chicago for some small town in another state, where nobody knew her name. Starting over from nothing, just like she'd always forced him to do. The irony wasn't lost on him. But Liam wasn't thinking about his mother anymore. For the first time in his life, he was thinking about himself. About what he wanted. Who he wanted to become. The answer surprised him. 3 months after the settlement, Liam stood in front of an empty warehouse on the south side of Chicago and tried to see what it could become. The building was a disaster. Broken windows. Water damage. Decades of neglect turning the interior into something that looked more like a crime scene than a future. But it was his. Bought with the settlement money his mother had been forced to pay back. Every dollar a small piece of justice. You sure about this? Marco asked, standing beside him with his hands in his pockets, surveying the wreckage with a critical eye. No, Liam admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. He'd been thinking about Patricia Weston's offer to join the foundation board. Had even attended a few meetings, sat through presentations about fundraising and donor relations and all the bureaucratic machinery that kept charities running. It was important work. Necessary work. But sitting in those conference rooms, listening to people talk about helping vulnerable people in abstract terms, Liam had realized something. He didn't want to manage programs from a distance. He wanted to build something real. Something that would have saved him if it had existed when he needed it. A shelter. Not the kind with institutional beds and fluorescent lighting and rules that felt like punishment. Something different. A place where people escaping abuse could actually heal. Could learn to be whole again. Could discover they were worth more than what had been done to them. The idea had taken root during one of his sessions with Sarah. They'd been talking about what healing actually looked like, and Liam had mentioned how Marco's building had felt like sanctuary. The safety of it. The way Elena had appeared with food and clothes without him having to ask. The gym where Risa had taught him to fight back. The therapy sessions that had helped him separate his mother's voice from his own thoughts. What if other people could have that? Liam had said. Not just a bed and a social worker's phone number. Actual support. People who understand. Sarah had smiled. Then you should build it. So here he was. Staring at a warehouse that looked like it should be condemned, trying to imagine it full of life and hope and second chances. Marco was already pulling out his phone. I know a contractor. He owes me a favor. Can have a crew here tomorrow to assess the damage. Marco, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Marco glanced at him. You're doing something good here. Let me help. Liam had learned not to argue when he used that tone. Over the past 3 months, he'd learned a lot about Marco DeLuca. That underneath the crime lord exterior was someone who understood survival, who respected strength, who kept his word no matter what it cost him. He'd learned that Marco was loyal to the point of stubbornness, that he valued competence over sentiment, and that he had a surprising soft spot for lost causes. He'd also learned that he trusted Marco more than he'd ever trusted anyone. Which was terrifying and comforting in equal measure. "Okay," Liam said. "Thank you." Marco made a call. Within an hour, a man in work boots and a hard hat showed up to walk through the space. Liam followed, taking notes, trying not to feel overwhelmed by the scope of what he was attempting. The contractor, a gruff older man named Frank who spoke in clipped sentences, pointed out structural issues, electrical problems, plumbing that would need to be completely replaced. "It's a lot of work," Frank said finally. "But the bones are good. You've got a solid foundation, good ceiling height. Could be something special if you do it right." "How long?" 6 months if you want it done fast. 8 if you want it done properly." Frank pulled out a battered notebook, started sketching rough plans. "You'll need permits, inspections, the whole bureaucratic mess. But it's doable." Liam felt something spark in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or purpose. "Let's do it properly." Frank nodded, already calculating numbers. "I'll have an estimate for you by Friday." After he left, Liam and Marco stood in what would eventually be the main common area, surrounded by construction dust and peeling paint and the ghosts of what the building used to be. "You're really doing this," Marco said. "Not a question." "Yeah. I really am." Liam turned to face him. "I know it's crazy. I know I have no experience running anything like this. But I have to try. If I don't," he stopped, searching for the right words. "If I don't do something with what happened to me, then it was all just pain with no point. This way, maybe it means something." Marco's expression softened in a way Liam rarely saw. "It already means something. You survived. That's enough. Not for me. Not anymore." Liam looked around the empty warehouse. "I want to build something. Leave something behind that's better than what I found." "Then you will." Marco said it like it was fact, like Liam's success was inevitable. Liam wished he had that kind of certainty. But maybe that was what faith looked like, someone believing in you when you couldn't quite believe in yourself yet. The months that followed were a controlled chaos of permits and construction and endless logistical nightmares. Liam threw himself into it completely, learning as he went. He hired an architect who specialized in trauma-informed design. He consulted with social workers, therapists, survivors of domestic violence. He visited other shelters, took notes on what worked and what didn't, and slowly began to shape a vision of what his place would be. Not a warehouse anymore. A home. 12 private rooms, each with its own bathroom and space for people to feel safe. A communal kitchen where residents could cook together if they wanted or eat alone if they needed to. A therapy room. A gym, Risa had already agreed to teach self-defense classes. A children's playroom, because Liam knew too many people stayed in dangerous situations because they had nowhere to take their kids. He named it Phoenix House. Elena said it was too on the nose. Liam didn't care. He liked the symbolism. Rising from ashes. Becoming something new. Marco watched from the sidelines, offering help when Liam asked but never pushing. He connected him with lawyers who helped navigate the nonprofit paperwork. He made sure the construction crew stayed on schedule. He showed up sometimes in the evenings to check on progress, hands in his pockets, asking questions that made it clear he actually cared about what Liam was building. "You're different," Marco said one night as they stood in the half-finished kitchen reviewing paint samples. Liam looked up from the color swatches. Different how? More settled. Like you know where you're going now. Marco leaned against the counter. When I first met you, you looked like you were bracing for a hit every second. Now you look like you'd hit back. I had a good teacher. Liam set down the samples. Actually, I had several. Risa taught me to fight. Sarah taught me to heal. Elena taught me that kindness doesn't have to be conditional. He met Marco's eyes. And you taught me that I was worth fighting for. Marco's expression did something complicated. Liam. I'm not saying that to make it weird. I'm just stating a fact. Liam picked up a deep blue swatch, held it to the wall. You could have turned me away that first night. Let my mother's plan play out. But you didn't. And I'm alive because of that choice. You're alive because you chose to be, Marco corrected. I just gave you the space to make that choice. Semantics. Liam smiled. Either way, thank you. For everything. Marco was quiet for a moment, studying him in that intense way he had. Then he pushed off the counter. The blue's better than the gray. More welcoming. And just like that, the moment passed. But something had shifted between them, something Liam couldn't quite name but felt nonetheless, settling warm in his chest. Sarah noticed during their next session. You look happy, she observed. Liam considered that. Happy felt too simple for what he was experiencing. But there was definitely something there, a sense of rightness, of moving towards something instead of just running away. I'm building something that matters, Liam said. That feels good. And Marco? How's that relationship evolving? Liam's face heated. It's not a relationship. He's just helping. Sarah's smile was knowing. And how do you feel when you're around him? Safe. Challenged. Like I can be myself without apologizing for it. Liam paused. Is that weird? That I feel that way about someone who's technically a criminal? I think human connection is complicated. And I think you're allowed to have feelings for someone who's shown you kindness. Sarah's voice was gentle. But Liam, you should also think about what you want moving forward. Are you rebuilding your life to eventually include a relationship? Or are you focusing on yourself right now? I don't know. Both? Neither? Liam laughed, frustrated. I've never had a normal relationship. I don't even know what that looks like. Then maybe start by being honest with yourself. And with him. See what happens. But honesty felt terrifying when Liam didn't even know what he wanted to be honest about. So he focused on Phoenix House instead, pouring all his confused feelings into tile choices, furniture orders, and staffing plans. He hired carefully, a house manager named Lisa who'd escaped an abusive marriage and understood what residents would need. 2 counselors who specialized in trauma. A security consultant Risa had insisted on, who designed a system that kept people out without making residents feel trapped. Every decision was intentional, designed to create the kind of safety Liam wished he'd had. 6 months into construction, Patricia Weston showed up unannounced. She walked through the space with sharp eyes, asking pointed questions, nodding occasionally. This is good work, Patricia said finally. You should present it to the foundation board. We have discretionary funding for projects like this. Could cover your operational costs for the first 2 years. Liam blinked. You'd do that? If you make a convincing pitch, yes. Patricia's smile was calculating. The foundation needs to rebuild its reputation after your mother's disaster. Funding a project run by her son, the man who exposed her, makes us look principled. Plus, this is actually good work that doesn't hurt. The board meeting was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Liam spent every spare moment preparing, building a presentation that laid out Phoenix House's mission, its budget, its projected impact. Marco helped him rehearse, playing devil's advocate, asking the hard questions board members would ask. "What makes this different from existing shelters?" he challenged. "We're not just providing beds. We're providing comprehensive support, therapy, job training, legal advocacy, childcare. Everything a person needs to actually rebuild their life, not just survive day to day." Liam clicked to the next slide. "Existing shelters do important work, but they're overwhelmed and underfunded. We're offering something more intensive. Smaller capacity, but deeper impact." Marco nodded, satisfied. "Better. What about sustainability?" They went through it again and again until Liam could recite the whole pitch in his sleep. By the time the board meeting arrived, he was as ready as he'd ever be. The presentation went better than he'd hoped. The board members asked tough questions but seemed genuinely interested. Patricia backed him up when needed, adding weight to his proposals. And when the vote came, it was unanimous. The foundation would fund Phoenix House's operations for 2 years, with the possibility of renewal based on outcomes. Liam walked out of that conference room feeling like he could breathe properly for the first time in months. He called Marco immediately. "We got it. Full funding." Marco's voice was warm. "Of course you did. You were brilliant." "I was terrified." Fear and brilliance aren't mutually exclusive. Liam could hear the smile in his voice. "Congratulations, Liam. You earned this." After they hung up, Liam sat in his car for a long time, just processing. A year ago, he'd been nothing. Nobody. An omega so broken he'd accepted his own death as inevitable. Now he was the director of a nonprofit preparing to open a shelter that would help dozens of people escape the same hell he'd survived. The transformation felt impossible. Like it had happened to someone else. But it was real. He'd done this. Built it from nothing but pain and determination and the kind of stubborn hope that refused to die no matter how hard his mother had tried to kill it. Phoenix House opened on a cold morning in November. Liam stood in the completed common room, walls painted that deep welcoming blue, furniture arranged to create intimate conversation areas, morning light streaming through windows that had been replaced and reinforced, and felt his throat tighten with emotion. It was perfect. Not in the Instagram-filtered way. Not sterile or institutional. It looked like a home. Like a place where people could actually heal. Elena had helped with the final decorating, bringing in plants, artwork, and small touches that made spaces feel lived in. Risa had installed a punching bag in the gym, along with mats and equipment for her self-defense classes. Sarah had set up the therapy room with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. Everyone who'd helped Liam rebuild himself had contributed to rebuilding this space for others. And Marco had shown up that morning with coffee and breakfast pastries for the entire staff, refusing to take credit for any of the construction or legal work or connections that had made this possible. "Today's about you," he'd said when Liam tried to thank him. "Let yourself have this." The first resident arrived that afternoon. A man named Diego, 24, with a black eye and a little girl clutching his leg. Lisa welcomed them, showed them to their room, explained how everything worked. Liam watched from a distance, remembering what it felt like to walk into safety for the first time. How foreign it had seemed. How impossible to trust. Diego's daughter Sofia, 4 years old, spotted the playroom and gasped. "Papa! Look! Toys! You can play, Mija," Diego said softly. "It's safe here." Liam had to walk away before he started crying. He found Marco in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with his coffee, giving him space to feel what he needed to feel. "First residents here," Liam managed. "I saw." Marco's voice was gentle. How are you holding up? I don't know. It feels huge. What if I can't help him? What if this whole thing is just me pretending I know what I'm doing? Then you'll figure it out. Same way you figured out everything else. Marco set down his coffee. Liam, you built this. You made something real out of your pain. That takes courage most people don't have. Stop doubting yourself. It's hard not to. My mother spent 26 years telling me I was worthless. Your mother was wrong about everything. Including that. Marco crossed his arms. Look around. This exists because you made it exist. That's not worthless. That's powerful. Liam looked at him. Really looked at him. And felt something shift in his chest. This man who'd saved his life without being asked. Who'd helped him destroy his mother's empire. Who'd stood beside him through every terrifying step of rebuilding himself. Who'd never asked for anything in return. He'd been halfway in love with Marco for months and hadn't let himself acknowledge it because it felt too complicated, too messy, too soon after everything with his mother. But maybe Sarah was right. Maybe he needed to be honest. Liam stopped, courage failing. Marco waited. Patient as always. Thank you, Liam said instead. For all of this. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Something flickered across Marco's face. Disappointment, maybe. But he just nodded. Any time. The moment passed. Liam went back to work, greeting new residents, helping staff settle into routines, making sure everything ran smoothly. But that almost confession haunted him, replaying in his head during quiet moments. Phoenix House filled up quickly. People arrived broken and scared, carrying trauma like luggage. Liam watched them slowly unfold, learning to trust the safety, to believe they deserved more than what they'd survived. He saw himself in each of them. The flinching. The apologizing. The way they made themselves small, like taking up space was a crime. And he watched them heal. Watched therapy and community and safety do their slow necessary work. Watched people who'd been beaten down start standing straighter, speaking louder, believing they were worth fighting for. It was exhausting and beautiful and everything Liam had hoped it would be. 3 months after opening, Liam was in his office late, reviewing applications for a grant that would let them expand capacity, when Marco appeared in the doorway. You're still here, Marco said. So are you. Liam set down his pen. What's up? Marco came in and closed the door behind him. He looked serious in a way that made Liam's stomach drop. I need to tell you something, Marco said. Liam braced himself. Okay. I'm getting out. He said it simply, like it wasn't the most shocking thing he could have said. The family business. All of it. I'm done. Liam stared at him. What? Why? Because I'm tired of living that life. Tired of the violence, the paranoia, the constant waiting for someone to make a move. Marco sat in the chair across from Liam's desk. I've been thinking about it for a while. Since the night I met you, actually. Watching you rebuild yourself made me realize I could do the same thing. Choose something different. What are you going to do instead? Legitimate business. I've got investments, properties. Enough clean money to start over. Marco met his eyes. And I want to help here. With Phoenix House. Not financially, you don't need my money anymore. But with security consulting. Legal navigation. All the background work that keeps places like this running. Liam's heart was pounding. You want to work with me? I want to work with you. For you. Whatever makes sense. Marco leaned forward. Liam, I've spent 20 years building an empire I don't even want anymore. Watching you build something that actually matters, it made me realize how empty my life has been. I want to be part of something real. And I want to be around you while I do it. The confession hung in the air between them. Marco, Liam's voice came out shaky. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I care about you. I have for months. I'm saying that helping you has been the best thing I've done in years. And I'm saying that if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, I'd like to see where this goes. He paused. But I need you to know, I'm not the same person I was. I'm choosing to be different for myself. But also for you. Liam stood. Came around the desk. And did something he'd been wanting to do for months. He kissed him. It was tentative at first. Testing. But when Marco's arms came around him, it deepened into something certain. Something that felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, Liam was breathless. I've been wanting to do that for a while, he admitted. Marco's smile was real. Warm. Nothing like the cold calculation Liam had seen that first night. You should have. I was scared. Of messing this up. Of losing you if it went wrong. You're not gonna lose me. Marco cupped his face gently. I'm all in, Liam. Whatever this is. Wherever it goes. I'm all in. Liam believed him. Not because he said it, but because he'd watched Marco prove it over and over for the past year. Marco De Luca kept his promises. And if he said he was choosing Liam, choosing this, then he meant it. Okay, Liam said. Then let's figure this out together. The next 6 months were a study in building something new. Marco stepped away from his organization gradually, transferring operations to his second-in-command, making it clear he was out for good. It wasn't clean. There were people who didn't believe him, who thought it was a trick, who tried to pull him back in. But he held firm. And eventually, they accepted it. He moved into a condo in the same neighborhood as Phoenix House. Started showing up for dinner service. Talking to residents. Offering the kind of steady alpha presence many of them had never experienced without violence attached to it. He was careful. Respectful. Never pushing. And slowly, the residents learned to trust him the way Liam had. Risa found it hilarious. Never thought I'd see the day Marco De Luca served spaghetti to domestic violence survivors. Life's weird, Marco said mildly, stirring sauce. Liam watched him navigate this new world, so different from the one he'd left behind, and felt something in his chest settle. This was right. Not perfect, because nothing was perfect. But right in the way that mattered. They took it slow, both of them learning what a relationship looked like when it wasn't built on fear or control. Marco taught Liam what healthy boundaries felt like. Liam taught Marco that vulnerability wasn't weakness. They fought sometimes, about finances, about Liam working too much, about Marco's protective instincts that occasionally veered into controlling. But they learned to fight fair. To apologize when they screwed up. To choose each other even when it was hard. Sarah approved, naturally. You're both doing the work. That's what matters. Elena was less subtle. About time you two figured it out. I've been waiting for this since the beginning. And Risa just punched Marco's shoulder and told him if he hurt Liam, she'd break both his kneecaps. Marco promised she'd get the chance if it came to that. 1 year after Phoenix House opened, Liam stood in front of the staff and residents for their anniversary celebration. The common room was full. People who'd come through the program and moved on. People still in residence. Staff members. Volunteers. And Marco standing in the back with his arms crossed and pride written all over his face. When I started this, Liam said, voice steady despite the emotion threatening to choke him, I wanted to build something that would have saved me. A place where people could be more than their trauma. Where they could remember they were whole people who deserved safety and respect and a second chance. He looked around the room at faces he'd come to know. Diego, who'd arrived with a black eye and was now enrolled in nursing school. Keisha, who'd been so broken she couldn't speak for the first week and was now leading peer support groups. Amara, who'd come with 3 kids and no hope and was working full-time while saving for an apartment. You've all taught me that healing isn't linear. It's messy and hard and sometimes it feels impossible. But it's also worth it. Every single time. Liam's voice cracked. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for being brave enough to choose yourselves. And thank you for showing me that survival can become something beautiful. The applause was thunderous. People stood, cheering, some crying. Liam felt tears streaming down his own face and didn't bother wiping them away. After the celebration wound down, he found Marco in the garden they'd built out back. Marco was sitting on a bench, face tilted toward the evening sun. You did good in there, Marco said as Liam sat beside him. We did good. None of this happens without you. I think you'd have figured it out. But Marco smiled, pleased. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights blink on as darkness fell. I've been thinking, Marco said eventually. About what comes next. For us. He turned to face him. I love you, Liam. I think I've loved you since you shook my hand in my office and decided to fight. And I want to build a life with you. A real one. Liam's breath caught. Marco. I'm not proposing. Not yet. I know we're still figuring this out. Marco took his hand. But I want you to know that's where I'm headed. Toward a future with you in it. Permanently. Liam looked at this man who'd saved his life. Who'd stood beside him while he rebuilt himself. Who'd chosen to become someone better because he'd seen what better could look like. He thought about the Omega he'd been a year ago. Broken and silent and convinced he was worthless. That boy never could have imagined this. A life built on purpose instead of pain. Surrounded by people who chose to be there. With someone who loved him, not despite his scars, but because of everything he'd survived to get here. I love you too, Liam said. And I want that future. With you. Marco kissed him, soft and certain, a promise of all the tomorrows they'd build together. When they finally pulled apart, Liam looked back at Phoenix House. Lights glowed in the windows. Inside, people were safe. Healing. Learning they were worth more than what had been done to them. His mother had tried to erase him. Turn him into nothing. Make him disappear. Instead, Liam had become something his mother could never destroy. Someone who survived. Who chose to rise. Who transformed pain into purpose and built something that would outlast them both. Phoenix House would help hundreds of people over the years. Thousands, maybe. Each one a testament to the truth Liam had learned the hard way, that survival was only the beginning. The real victory was choosing to live. And Liam Porter, no longer invisible, no longer silent, no longer afraid, was finally fully alive.